Welcome back to the Bearded Nerd Podcast, where we help players and game masters learn, play, and grow their love for tabletop RPGs. Let's be honest, every game master eventually meets that player, the one who burns down taverns, eliminates every NPC, and then loots the party cleric before session 2. You've built a rich world full of diplomacy, tension, and story potential. And your players respond by punching the king, stealing from the temple, and then setting the town on fire. Today we're talking about how to handle the quote murder hobo behavior, why it happens, how to redirect it without killing the fun, and how to get your game back on track before it falls apart. Because chaos can be entertaining, but left unchecked, it wrecks campaigns. So, without further ado, let's dive into this episode of the Bearded Nerd Podcast. What is a murder hobo? A murder hobo is a player whose solution to everything is violence without consequence. They wander from place to place, eliminate everyone who annoys them, and take whatever isn't nailed down. But here's the truth. Most murder hobos aren't bad people or bad players. They're bored, disconnected, or misaligned with the game's tone. It's a symptom, not a flaw. In my experience, there are 4 common causes. The player feels powerless, so they seek control. The game hasn't offered clear stakes or moral grounding. They don't see in-world consequences as real. Or they just haven't played in a story-driven campaign before. So it's not a punishment as the first step, right? We shouldn't punish them, but we should diagnose what the player is feeling. Before you react, you have to ask, why is this player acting this way? You need to understand their motivation. Oftentimes, like I stated, there are several symptoms and causes, right? But there are 3 types of murder hobos. That's the chaos seeker, the power gamer, and the disconnected player. The chaos seeker is just someone who wants to cause trouble because it's fun. They love seeing what happens when they push boundaries. Right? The power gamer just wants to measure success by domination and metagaming everything, right? Defeating everyone and everything is fun. And then the disconnected player, they don't care about your world. They just treat it like a video game, right? So, how do you fix it? Number 1, chaos seeker. Give them controlled chaos. Let them channel that energy into rivalries or pranks or risky missions. Give them that place to be chaotic. For the power gamer, shift the rewards for that person. Reward creativity, diplomacy, and problem solving with experience or narrative power, not just in combat. The power gamer really likes to interact in combat, but in those times where you're not in combat, give them XP instead of, a pat on the back. They need something tangible to kind of keep going. And then the disconnected player, you can give them a family, faction, NPC that they care about and give them consequences if they destroy it, right? Give them some stake in the game. But I think with the disconnected player, it's deeper than that. You got to ask all of these players or these types, what do they view as fun? Right? And help them with that. But like I've said before, this all starts in session 0. So during session 0, you need to set boundaries and expectations. The biggest mistake most GMs make is that they don't talk about behavior until it's already a problem. So during session 0, you need to establish consequences early. You need to say, hey, murder and theft should matter. If a player kills a guard, the city is going to react. Therefore, there are consequences. If you burn a tavern, they're going to hunt you down and exile you if best, right? At worst, you'll be making new characters. Use that session 0 to talk openly about the tone, about the morality and the consequences. Talk about if your campaign's heroic or gritty. Is it morally gray, right? The players need to know the genre so that they'll know how to play to the tone of it. You might actually be able to filter out those personalities, or you might welcome those personalities and it might be more structured because they know what to look for. And then define your table etiquette, right? You're not limiting creativity, but you want to protect the shared story. Again, let me repeat that. You want to protect the shared story. The choices that your party members make have weight, but it affects other players, and those other players deserve fun too. And then lastly, part of that session 0, reinforce those kind of social contracts, right? Respect everyone that comes to the table. You have to have a level of respect for each other that comes before the in-game chaos, right? If players are sabotaging fun, you're going to have to call a break and address it calmly, right? The boundary isn't a restriction, but they're definitely road signs, very much like raising kids. In my experience as a dad, there are boundaries that I've placed with my children. They're not restrictions, right? But they're guideposts on what the expectation of behavior should be. So same fashion, same way, you got to think about that with your players. You can also use some in-game tools. I believe that in-game tools to redirect chaos is great, because if the chaos is already happening, you don't have to stop the game. You could steer it. So you could use consequences that tell a story. If the entire party are a bunch of murder hobos and they kill an NPC, make the NPC's family hire a guild and they come looking for the party for justice, right? If they destroy a town, let the refugees appear later on as victims of that chaos and let them see that, right? If they don't care about that, go to the next step. Introduce in-world accountability, bounty posters, trials, wanted notices, things like that. It's not GM punishment, but they're natural consequences. You do something, something's going to happen, right? The players are going to start to realize that the world reacts because it's alive. And that's the big thing. All these symptoms are probably flaws in the world that you're playing in, right? They don't feel that the world's alive. They feel like they can do whatever they want, like a video game, and move on. But if you make it feel alive, it's going to give them something. It's going to give them something to think about. But give them a better outlet, right? Redirect that chaos energy towards a quest that fits their playstyle, right? Maybe their playstyle, the murder hobo playstyle, maybe they would flourish in games that hunt monsters or testing limits against like dangerous monsters and foes, or to like infiltrate criminal networks where it's all combat chaos heavy. Maybe that's the campaign that you run instead. You could use morality systems, right? So like that their reputation affects how others treat them. You know, villages will start closing doors and refuse trade and so on and so forth, and create accountability through the play, right? Instead of just lecturing them. But you might want to do both. Their personalities may be more akin to the monster hunting, monster slaying type campaigns. And what you do, you implement that while you reinforce those more morality systems, if you will. Before we finish the last segment of this episode, which is talking to the player, I want to quickly thank Dungeon Soap for being our sponsor. Dungeon Soap is a beautifully handcrafted, fantasy-themed skincare company that is an American-made American-based company using the highest of quality ingredients in their products. I personally love their soap, specifically the Paladin scent. It is amazing, it's beautiful, and I use it all the time. But by using Bearded 10 at checkout, you can save 10% off your entire order. And that proceed goes to support the podcast. It's a win-win, really. So thank you, Dungeon Soap, for sponsoring this episode. If you would like to support the podcast, check out the show notes. I'll leave a link in that description. Now let's get back to this episode of the Bearded Nerd Podcast. When it's time to have the talk, it's because no amount of narrative consequences fixes the problem. You're going to have to move from in-game correction to out-of-game communication. And it's going to be a little bit tricky, but here's how you should approach it. Number 1, stay calm and private. Don't confront the player in front of others. Pull them aside. Maybe if you guys play in the living room, pull them to the kitchen or to, outside. Shut the door and keep it private, right? Focus on the enjoyment. That's number 2. Don't blame them. Focus on the enjoyment. Say, hey, I noticed that the game's tone is shifting. Are you having fun with how this is going? No? Okay. Or yes, let's move on. If they say yes, I don't have a problem with it, you can say, okay, let's clarify here. I am noticing, that's how I would say it, I am noticing that the tone is shifting. A lot of the players are doing X, and you're going with Y. Are you actually having fun with this? Or you can approach it this way. Hey, I noticed that the game's tone is shifting from this to that. I'm asking every person in the party if they're having fun. Are you having fun with this? Are you wanting more combat or more chaos and less structure? Are you wanting, or what are you not having that you would want more of, right? So kind of flip the narrative. Say, what areas can I improve upon? Because if there's areas that you can improve upon, they'll tell you. And then clarify the intentions. Maybe say, hey, this campaign is XYZ, and I think you thought that it was ABC. So let's realign our tone altogether. And if all that doesn't work, offer some compromise. If they want combat, you got to weave in more combat into the story. Have some story-driven battles or some gladiatorial arcs or something that gives them a chance to have fun too. And if none of that works out, that's when you have to think about redirecting them towards another table or hosting another, maybe like every other week where you have more combat driven, maybe dungeon dives, and then more storytelling things. So divide the player and say, hey, or divide the party, excuse me. Don't divide the player. That's immoral and unethical and illegal. But divide the party up. Have your swords, your seekers, and your, whatever you want to call it. So think about that. Because after all, that behavior may or may not be damaging. But if it does damage the group's enjoyment, at the end you cannot, separate the group. You can't do any of that. It's okay to part ways. You're building a table. You're not a daycare. Okay? You can't save every campaign, but you can save your energy for that next campaign. And every GM eventually faces a player who breaks the rules of the story, sometimes by accident, sometimes on purpose. But great GMs don't react with punishment. They respond with story, redirect their chaos. They anchor motivation and remind everyone that actions have meaning. A game where choices matter is always more fun than one where destruction is free and loose. If you want a printable resource with conversation guides, in-game consequence charts, and prompts to realign chaotic players, feel free and grab the Murder Hobo Management Toolkit on Patreon. And until next time, y'all, remember, you're not here to control your players. You're here to guide the story. Thank you for listening. Follow and subscribe the podcast for more. Be kind and compassionate to one another. And as always, folks, keep gaming.